Tell me when you unmute, Tiffany. Okay, so it's 5:30 PM. I call to order this Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of Thursday, November 16th, 2023. Present are Commissioners Todd, Angela, Kathy, myself, and Peter. And Alicia is absent. And from staff, we have Ron, Ally, and Tiffany. And we have our council liaison, Dan Enright. And that's it, I think. Charles is not going to be available due to the cyclone.
Oh,
He was going to try to.
The
Zoom
cyclone?
From New Zealand, but the cyclone Mao, what a name, huh?
Ooh,
Mao is
yeah.
disrupting air travel. He's disrupting.
oh, that's right. He would have been on an airplane or something.
Yeah, so we hope
Oh,
he's safely
Goodness.
doing something.
That's a better excuse than any of us have had for a long time.
Our first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of October 26th, 2023. Kathy?
I move to approve the minutes of October 26, 2023 as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? No, all in favor? It's unanimous. The meetings are approved. Next, staff announcements. Ron.
There are no staff announcements tonight.
Well, actually, there's the draft P and Z meeting calendar on the. agenda.
Yes, that's on the agenda.
Does anybody have any comments?
Let me try to share my screen real quick.
Yeah, there was,
That was attached to that. huh?
Kathy?
the June 20th meeting is Thursday of Bluegrass. We've never met during Bluegrass. I don't know why we would start now. I might not have a ticket, but that's strange. I might choose to not have a ticket, but
Is that correct? Is that when Bluegrass is?
Is that the 13th or the 20th?
the Bluegrass is kind of late this year, I
Mhm.
believe.
The 20th, Peter.
20th. This is not,
So it would move to one of the retreats, that
It
a
could
council
move,
retreat?
well, we're often on the 4th. I
after.
don't know why it can't move to the 27th.
Yeah, that's a
of
good
June.
idea.
this is not showing.
That means I will make it.
Upcoming.
Yes.
It is
Do we have the right,
different.
that's not the right one up, is it?
Yeah, let me,
It said 2024, but it looked different. Anyway. Other thoughts about the June meeting?
27th.
Here,
Good.
27th is good for you too, Todd? Does care? All right. So Ron, can we move the June meeting to the to the following week? I think it's 27th.
okay,
And if that poses a problem, let us know. We appoint a time to change that.
Okay.
Any other meetings that people care or?
I will miss the
comments?
May, but whatever, you know.
Okay, why don't we go with this, we'll consider this meeting calendar, the calendar until further, until further notice.
okay.
Yeah.
So,
Is there any public comment on non-agenda items? Tiffany, are there any public who are not present in the room?
I don't see any hands raised.
Okay. All right, so now we'll proceed to our work session. We're very grateful and happy that Dave Simonson, the planning director for San Miguel County, has agreed to come about the East End Master. So we'll have a presentation from Kay. This is an informational session since this board has no authority over the East End Master Plan. We can comment, of course, and our views will, I hope, be, we'll accept it, and we have a mechanism for comment. But we're not, what I hope that people will think about in their questions is to clarify or ask Kay to clarify or expand on something. So that we get as much information as possible in this session. Kay, would you like to present?
Yeah, so good evening and thank you for having me here. A little interesting to be sitting at here instead of over there. Once upon a time, long ago. So we've been at work on the East End Master Plan for over a year now. Actually tried to start in 2019 or 2020 and well, things got held up. So where am I pointing the pointer towards?
Just towards the TV.
Okay. So counties are a little bit different from municipalities in terms of what statutes we operate under. And in Colorado, statute does give the plan commission the responsibility of preparing and adopting a master plan. The BOCC is informed throughout the process, but they don't adopt the plan. And, they've certainly been feeling free to give us feedback as we've been going through it. But when we get done, the planning commission will adopt it via resolution. They will certify it to the BOCC. And, typically, I may do a briefing to them, but it's by stating that's been certified to the BOCC that it completes that action in the resolution. So a master plan is a formal and strategic document. It helps guide policy decisions and sets priorities by reflecting the community's vision and goals. It's an advisory document. It is not regulatory. It doesn't rezone or change the use of any property. Consistency with the master plan is a consideration when reviewing land use applications. So it should be used by the planning commission or the BOCC because they do review land use applications as well. It should be used by applicants when they're putting together their proposals. And we also encourage citizens to look at the plan and be informed as to what's in there. And we will identify a lot of partner agencies that we have mutual interests on. And hopefully they'd be looking at it as well to see where they could help us out on that. So community outreach was a very important priority as we set out the scope of this. And we began by forming a citizen advisory group, and they've provided input on engagement strategies and also on plan contents. And we had a number of advisory group meetings throughout the entire process. And then community engagement, we had a number of events and activities. We started with focus groups last November, and it was divided into 5 topics. Did polling with Mentimeter as part of that. And then we held pop-up events at 4 locations on actually Noel night of last year. We started in the town, then we went to Lawson Hill, then we went to Mountain Village, and then we came back and finished in the evening in the town and managed to engage a lot of people through that as well. We did our community survey last February, and we did receive over 1,000 responses. We did take out some that were ballot box stuffing, but in the end, we tabulated over 1,000 responses. And we did ask people to identify where they lived or worked. So we were able to, kind of, rather than just have one answer to a question, we could figure out which area or, who was answering which question in what way. And then we had a couple of community open houses in early March, where we were really trying to get to what our vision and our themes were going to be, based on everything we'd been hearing in the previous meetings. And then this early October, we had 2 community houses where we actually presented the draft plan and asked for feedback on that. The response or the results of all the community engagement activities are contained in our appendix to our master plan. The plan looks a little bit thick. Half of it's plan and half of it is appendix. And we've also put all of these responses and information on our website. We're maintaining a website so people can go in there and see that. They can go back and watch past meetings through our website as well. If they want to, anybody wants to catch up. But we've had really good engagement throughout. Generally anywhere from 100 to 160 people at all of our engagement events total. So the priorities that were identified in the survey, the top 5 were affordability and cost of living, access to health care, and that was both physical and mental, housing opportunities, access to nature and outdoors, and environmental preservation, And then when we presented our themes at the community open house in October, the top themes that people said were most important to them were the housing access, balanced and sustained natural and built environment, and expanded transportation options. This is our vision statement. We're still working on it, but we think we're close. Eastern San Miguel is a forward-thinking, connected, and caring community. The community thoughtfully considers its history of stewardship and commitment to embracing new ideas, fostering connections, and leading by example. The spirit of innovation, combined with a respect for history, arts, wildlife, open spaces, and tradition, enriches the community's cultural fabric. The East End is dedicated to environmental protection, green energy opportunities, and climate change mitigation and adaptation. By utilizing technology, implementing effective policies, and collaborating regionally, Eastern San Miguel County can make a positive impact on its environment and serve as a model for others. We are committed to managing development while maintaining the natural and community character that makes our region so special. We are an outdoor recreation hub and seek to maintain recreational opportunities while preserving and protecting wildlife habitats and open spaces. We are proud of our home and remote Colorado lifestyle and are committed to being a welcoming, diverse, and equitable place now and into the future. So within the plan, we've divided into 8 themes and goals. This does reflect the community feedback that we received, as well as the work of the advisory group and then the planning commission. And within each theme, there's a goal statement followed by actions. And under those actions, we identify, they might be plan and study, or they might be a policy. There's a number of different approaches that we can take. Consider and explore is another one, but different levels. And we do assign potential partners, our level of expected investment, and also the timing. And some of the timing is ongoing. We're just always going to be doing it. Some might be soon, near term, others might be longer term. But the themes that we have are housing access, climate change and resiliency, balanced and sustained natural and built environments, diverse and resilient economic opportunity, expanded transportation options, vibrant arts, culture, and historic preservation, and connected, cooperative, welcoming, and equitable community. Again, going back to the potential partners, there, for example, within these, you'll see that we've identified the need for some regional planning, and that's where you guys come in. There were a lot of things that we as the county do not do. You know, we are a different sort of organization than the towns. And there's some things that we really can't control because they aren't within our purview. And so we call for the need within the plan, identify having some regional planning around a number of topics like housing or like infrastructure. We've had a lot of discussion in our meetings about, well, what is the carrying capacity? That's not something that the county can answer. That's something that needs to be answered regionally. And also that's, you know, just a loaded question anyhow, because there are so many different ways of doing the math on that. Future land use opportunities is the other big part of the plan. And this map and the table that accompanies it are used specifically when we do rezoning, but also looking at land development applications. It considers both our existing land use patterns and our constraints, but also looks at where there might be some potential. And we have a lot of constraints. We have Forest Service land, we have steep slopes, we have conservation areas, and then we have a lot of developed areas. There aren't too many undeveloped areas left in the unincorporated part of the east end of the county. A few things about the border. Of course, you can see that the east side, south and east side is the county line. The other lines basically follow public lands boundaries. So we don't have any private property abutting other private property that's outside the plan area. All the private property in the plan area abuts Forest Service if it's up against the boundary. And that really helps us in land use review, not having that. It gives us a nice fuzzy line, actually. It identifies where the types and intensities of development are appropriate or inappropriate. So you can see we've got residential low, medium, and then high mixed use. We've got commercial, industrial, public, conservation, which also includes our agricultural areas, and then parks and open space. A future land use map does not rezone property. It identifies potential zone districts that might apply, but rezoning occurs at the request of the property owner and then is considered subject to all the criteria in our land use code. And then the other part of it that's important is the future land use categories table that follows the map. And it describes the intent of that category, and it lists potential zone districts that might be used. It doesn't mandate that anybody has to use any one of those zone districts. It's the ones that might fit there. And it goes back to what the property owner is interested and would like to do. So that's the plan in a nutshell, the very quick version. For our next steps, right now, the Planning Commission is reviewing the draft plan, and they're providing direction for specific changes. We are having actually subcommittee meetings right now to go through the various themes that we're going to take back to the Planning Commission as a whole. And then our next meeting is December 14th. We meet the second Thursday of each month. We expect that we'll be continuing at least into January with figuring out all of our draft revisions. I am getting ready to do what we call review agency and stakeholder review under state statute. That's a 21-day period, and the town of Telluride is a review agency on this. We would recommend that you guys work out a method to have your comments going to a central point of contact here at the town so that we can get concise, specific direction. That's most useful to us rather than having, a dozen voices from an entity chiming in. It can be really hard for us to separate that out. Once we have all of our stakeholder comments, all of our Planning Commission comments, we're going to be putting together the final draft. And the release date, that's to be determined, but I'm hoping probably not January, might be February. I'd like to get this project done before off season, but we'll see. Once we have the final draft, we'll do a second review agency and stakeholder review, just to make sure that we captured everything. And then we will set our Planning Commission hearing or hearings for adoption March, probably, hopefully. We're between holidays and off season. It's a little challenging. So we may schedule special meetings as needed. So that's my presentation. I'd love to answer questions.
Thank you, Kate. Ron, before we have questions for Kate, would you like to explain to us how our comments might be organized as Kate?
Yeah, so I think we're gonna, town council, of course, also review this, and I think staff's direction is to receive comments and receive direction from town council as far as the final comments and how they're formatted and sent to the county. But we'd like to include the comments from each of the planning and zoning commissioners if that's your
So
preference.
we should send our comments to you for inclusion in this process.
That would be the best way to do it. Just send it to me and then I'll send it to the town manager and we'll get it coordinated with town council.
Okay, questions for Kay? I'm sorry.
Oh, and I just wanted to add, any individual who wants to, be informed, there's a way to sign up on the county website to receive notifications about this, or any county business, actually. So we encourage people to use that. And then if anybody wants to, as an individual, to provide comments to us, there is a web portal where comments can be sent, or they can be emailed to masterplan@sanmiguelcountyco.gov.
Does it say that on the website?
Yes.
Great.
Everything's on the website.
Thank you. All right, questions for Kay?
I was hoping we could have some discussion tonight.
We can,
about it.
yeah, we can, but let's first go with questions for Kay. Anything that people want to clarify or ask about?
I have curiosity about, I think what you described, this kind of open-ended zoning. It's not changing the zone district,
Correct.
but I have read CH proposed zone district language, I believe. And the the underpinnings of this, it's seemingly kind of foregoing planning in broad ways and saying, hey, we're gonna see where these questions or requests to upzone or go with greater density where that might be feasible, or at least there's interest. That's when the planning starts. How do you sort of describe how that came to be? Because it seems like it's quite different than my limited experience with understanding, kind of trying to make plans and 10-year, 20-year schedules.
Yeah. So the CH zone is an adopted zone district. It has been applied to property already. It has, as with any zone district, certain development standards. In the application of it, so we have our table in the master plan with the different land use categories. And CH zoning is listed as a potential zone district in 4 of those: the residential low, the residential medium, the residential high mixed use, and then in the public zone district or land use category. The CH zoning doesn't forego planning. It rearranges it from how we've traditionally been doing it. So any request to rezone goes through a 2-step process: Planning Commission and Board of County Commissioners. And then the development plan, unless it's very small scale, again goes through a 2-step process where significant studies, plans, details are required. And at that point, it's a shift from our current PUD process. It doesn't front it as much as the PUD process. We look at potential at the rezoning, and then we look at the actual, details when we look at the development plan. So, and then there's a development approval at the end of that. So it's still 5 steps, just rearranged. But the community housing zone district is separate from the master plan. It is the land use code's a regulatory document. This is an advisory document. We are scheduling a work session, Planning Commission and Board of County Commissioners, to talk about CH zoning. And that'll be January 24th. So, there is the opportunity for the public to tune in and hopefully participate at that point. But the master plan identifies potential zone districts. There's a number of zone districts that might be used. It's just like going to a restaurant, you see the menu. Well, I think I'll order the chicken, but if you're gluten-free and lactose intolerant, maybe not the chicken parm. So think of it that way. The listing of it as a potential zone district does not make it so. And zoning is implemented or is requested. It's begun by the property owner. The county doesn't rezone property on its own.
Other questions for Kay?
You mentioned carrying capacity as a complex issue and one that needs to be discussed with all the partners. In your last review, there was some comment and question about what the state allows and doesn't allow in terms of restricting growth. Would you care to comment on that before we have to comment back to you, or should we?
And Yeah, I almost need an attorney here for this one, but so as you know, the state legislature is trying to do a lot of things about housing. And there was a Senate bill this past year, I believe, that put restrictions on a entity's ability, you know, a municipality or a county to impose growth limitations. So anything we do from a regulatory standpoint, we have to think about that. We have, because we haven't had the regional discussion, this plan does not include or envision any sort of growth controls. Obviously, we have challenges regarding water. We have challenges regarding wastewater. And then, you know, we just don't have a lot of land left. So, you know, sometimes I look at the state demographers' projections, long-range projections for the county, and I say, but where are we going to put all of them? Where are we going to get the water? So, you know, that's where the need for further discussion comes in.
Other questions from Kay? All right, let's go to discussion, Kathy.
And one thing I noticed, I went to one of those October meetings that was really helpful for me to understand this. Just like we did in 2006, there's no, in our master plan, we totally overlooked any mention or need for early childhood education. And I don't know if that's intentional or just accidental. It doesn't always come up in the surveys, but certainly some of the sites that we're going to need for that are going to be in the county, not just in the town of Telluride and the town of Mountain Village. So that's my first comment. My next concern is I feel like, I guess I have a broader concern that this document as it is right now, with not much mention about the limitations of our water sources and the capacity of our once and future new water treatment plan when it gets built, it's not going to have a huge amount of growth potential beyond what we can fit on the land we're going to have in our current needs and zoning in the two towns that are paying for it. So I'm concerned about that. And I can just see growth that's envisioned in this document pushing on the town of Telluride, that we're going to be told, oh, the spur needs to be 4 lanes. It can't be 4 lanes. Oh, we need a bigger post office. It's going to have to move out of town. It would be devastating for this town if the post office was forced to relocate because it was now serving 10,000 people instead of 5,000 people. There's all kinds of things. So I hope in our town comments and stuff, but I mean, you need to respect that the growth is going to push on us. It might not push that much on Mountain Village, but it's really going to push on us. And we might not want the impacts that, or we might not want to accommodate those impacts, and I don't know where they're going to go. And my current vision of the other thing is your section 3 Easton Vision and Community Process. It's all very interesting, but it's kind of right in there in the way when I think sections 4 and 5 are extremely important. I'd like to see all of 3 become an appendix. I think you're wasting everybody's ability to focus on important things about, oh, look, we did this. Oh, look, we did that. I don't think that's you or your commission. I think it's your consultant. And so just tell them to shove that into appendix. And then, you know, I just feel like everything in this right now combined with the CH zone is like, go, 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 develop as fast as you can. And we need housing for workers, but we don't need to sell our soul to get that housing. And we don't need to sell our soul to get that housing plus the 20% of free market that we might not really need at all. So I have a lot of concerns. I think you need to fix the CH zone before you adopt this document, so it cannot be used in tandem to force some huge project. And I'm not talking about Diamond Ridge. talking about other potential places, some huge project through that's gonna trigger a lot of repercussions in our region.
Well, I have a question, I guess, and this is a question for UK, which is how is it envisioned that conflicts like the ones Kathy described between the availability in the master plan for development and maybe the desire to put development there versus the capacity of the town? How is the process, what is the process by which such conflicts are resolved? How does that work?
Yeah, that comes out in each of the, each time we have proposals. The discussions about a lot of this are happening at a regional scale and, like among the commissioners and the town council members, about how to deal with a lot of those infrastructure impacts. There's a lot of what ifs and hypotheticals. What if a traffic study dictates, 4-laning a road? Then we have to weigh the feasibility of that and, the jurisdiction that's responsible for that. It's not something that a plan can answer necessarily. There's been a lot of discussion about how this plan promotes a lot of growth. The reality is there isn't that much more area left for growth because going back to the constraints, we already have a lot of areas that are developed. And they're developed in such a way that it would be very difficult to redevelop them and add more density. So I think the realistic side of it is that it's not that huge. And again, there are details of the community housing zone that may need some refinement and modification, but that's a separate discussion. And we are going to start having that on January 24th.
Great. Would you mind coming and telling us about that at some point?
Well, I would encourage people to tune into that.
Yes. Okay, great.
Yeah.
We can zoom in. Other comments or thoughts about Kathy?
Well, can you
Sorry.
brought up carrying capacities, you brought up some of the state growth things. Can you, first I should say, I'm really glad you're going slower on this and you're not trying to have it done by the end of the year or some arbitrary deadline like that. But I would feel much more comfortable about everything, including the CH zone combined with this. There was something in there and whether it's in 4, look into the future or whatever, something about there are capacities. If you cannot fit in our sewer system, you're not going to happen. If you don't have your own water, you're not going to happen. If you're going to trigger 4-laning certain roads in our community, that's not going to happen. So that people go in eyes wide open. I don't want a developer waving the brand new, very pretty, because that's one of the best aspects of this, planning company you hired and we hired as well, as the graphics, very pretty book that you'll get, waving this pretty book and waving the CH plan in the other hand and say, and we're going to do this, and then have some lawyer say, and yeah, they meet all the criteria, and we're sitting there going. So I would love to see some language that, will say, think it all the way through, and we're probably not going to give, town and it's not going to support a huge sewer use that's going to, put us beyond the capacity of developing things that we need to develop in town. We still have a fair amount of vacant land in town scattered around. We have to honor that before we can honor some new subdivision and a sewer system in our sewer system or our water system.
Yeah, and our planning commission has recognized the need for more detail about infrastructure in the plan as well. Probably going into chapter 4. Haven't figured that out yet, but we're definitely going to be having that discussion. We recognize that as well.
And is the Zoom from those, when were those meetings?
The last month, there was a couple.
the October meetings that were done on Zoom, is there a way for some of our other board members who weren't there to go back and watch that presentation
Yeah,
and
I
learn
think
the
that's on the
plan?
website.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, on the county website, there's a thing called, it's under the government tab called Agendas and Minutes. And that's where we archive all Zoom meetings. And so you can find meeting information or recordings under, if they were just solely about the East End Master Plan, like our advisory group meetings, or that's where you'll find those meeting recordings. And then if they were planning commission meetings, you'll find them under the planning commission tab. So everything's there.
Angela.
Are there actionable items to implement this plan? For instance, does it allude to the necessity to establish what carrying capacity means for infrastructure in our Box Canyon? Or that kind of implementation tool?
Yeah, we have a goal in here to talk and work on regional planning. And that's where the carrying capacity discussion needs to be.
Right, that's just one example.
Yeah.
For instance, other
So,
feasibility, things that
um,
might come out.
So under the themes, there's a goal statement, but then there's a lot of actions. And just as an example, we have an action in there to work on alleviating traffic and parking impacts at trailheads. So, that's something that the county and maybe the towns, if it's, proximate, Forest Service, some of our nonprofits could all work together on. But that's something, the thing about a plan is once you've adopted it, you need to go and look at all those actions and incorporate that into your work programs. So as we do our annual work programs, we'll be looking at what projects do we have that fit? What can we start carrying out? What do we have the resources to do?
Is there a prioritization process?
Within this plan right now, we haven't said that we're going to do this one first, this one second, but it does place a high, medium, or low priority on it, and also high, medium, or low investment on it. So, and that's always subject to change because, that's our best guess right now. But certainly in the future, things could rise up or things could drop down.
I was encouraged to hear discussion or mention at one or both of your last commissioner meetings about the CH zoning and the want for housing and anticipating that this housing does not include or mean that it's affordable. And that was hoped for, and it was kind of in the title of the zone, but not necessarily affordable. And I think I'm glad to hear the community has concerns about that as well. That because I gather the need is great for that, and plenty of examples to choose there, but I don't know how I sort of square that reality, or we speculate on that, but I was encouraged to hear that. I also, with your mention, Kay, of not a lot of land or usable or land that could be developed yet are still available in the county, so it's not as much of a concern about the possibility of land swaps or things where you have unintended consequences or things that might not have been anticipated, but nonetheless, with community support can happen. And if that has all come up, or if that's kind of lingering out there as well, maybe, who knows?
Not to sound cavalier, but master plans can be amended if conditions change. We have envisioned some potential Forest Service lands to be to potentially become housing or in the residential high or residential medium future land uses. You know, land swaps are a funny thing. We don't have specifics in here. I don't think about any particular land swaps, but I believe we do have some potential, you know, under some of the themes, we have potential actions, policies, studies, whatever, to take advantage of those. I know we definitely have something in there about looking for opportunities to acquire either outright or through leases Forest Service land. So.
Okay, my last sort of comment was Todd, I think you mentioned things that are going on in the state level and trying to reduce or limit controls for development of housing. I would be behind whatever the larger community is supportive of, as I think we all would hope to. And that said, I have, and sort of catching up on this in the last month and sporadically, I didn't warm to the idea that the people on the state level are making decisions for us here or limiting our ability to make our own decisions. Similarly, I had kind of a similar reaction to thinking about, say, if 500 of the 1,000 people in your survey might be commuting from Montrose, because that's what they have to do. I'm a little torn on that at the same time about how to include those comments or take them into the same basket as people who live here. And I'm not super comfortable with how I'm sort of describing that, but it's kind of lingering out there. I'm like, well, okay, this is a variety of groups and there's a lot of needs. And that's one that was a little troubling for me.
I'd encourage you to look at the survey results in the appendix. The majority of our respondents were from within the county. And there weren't that many from out of the county. But, you know, keeping in mind that many of our commuters probably would like the opportunity to live here. Some of them are established elsewhere, but some would like the opportunity to live here. So, you know, we're trying to be cognizant of the great variety. And, you know, we're beginning the housing needs assessment update. And that the 2018 assessment asked a lot of those questions as well. So it's a balancing act. You get a lot of input and then you have to sift through it and figure out what's important and what you want in the plan.
So I have a question, or maybe a comment. The regional planning aspect of this, how is that going to proceed exactly? And how is it even going to be decided how it proceeds? Like, what's the process for developing the process?
Yeah, that's TBD.
Okay.
But generally, when you do a process like that, there's a kind of a memorandum of agreement amongst the parties as to the roles that are going to be played within it, and also the mundane stuff about how you're going to pay for it, and how decisions are going to be made.
So that will be between you guys and town council here?
It would be between hopefully the county, town of Telluride, town of Mountain Village, and town of Ophir, because all four jurisdictions are in the plan area.
Any other thoughts, comments, or questions for Kay?
I
Yes,
just wanted to notice, in case people didn't see her, Mary Jo Shalacy, who's a county commission of, planning and zoning commission member, has come. So thank you for coming and hearing us. I think that's very noble that you did that.
Yes, and we appreciate both you, Kay, and you, Commissioner Shalacy, as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I did let the planning commission know that we'd be here tonight, and there may be some of our commissioners tuning in as well.
Thank you. Thanks very much. And we'll be commenting. So Ron, we should send written comments to you and see from there.
I do have a question. What date do you anticipate actually having review?
So I've been intending all week to get the review agency notice emails out. That's on my to-do list for tomorrow. And it's generally 21 days, so we'll also look at, holidays. Make sure that we're not putting
Yeah,
Do
don't do
the-
21 days from now.
uh
Please.
and then keep in
Yes.
mind, there's gonna be multiple review period. There's gonna be 2 review agency periods. And that just helps us as staff and also the planning commission on putting together the draft.
Sure.
The public input process is continuous all the way up until the plan is adopted. So, we don't shut the door until the resolution's adopted. And even then, we'll probably still be hearing from people. So,
All right, thanks very much.
okay, thank you.
All right. So our next item, we have a public hearing item on, and before we proceed with this item, which we all know, I just want to have a short discussion among the commission about how we want to proceed in light of the fact that we have not received until now, and I guess we're about to receive the plans and actual specific information about what, if any, changes to the PUD there are. And the reason I'm concerned about this is that first, we do usually require plans and such in the memo and in the agenda. And the reason for that is that way we can have an informed recommendation from our staff. Hasn't had a chance to see this either. And also we can receive public comment, which is important to our deliberations, and the public hasn't had a chance to see this either. And so, when I first thought about this, I thought, well, we should just take this off the public hearing agenda and call this a work session and give them our input, but not have a recommendation given this situation. But I'm advised by Ron and Ally that actually we wouldn't be violating any rules if we went ahead and made a recommendation. So it's really up to us. Is that correct? I'm looking at you, Ally and Ron.
So the way we do view this as a complete application, which is ready for your review.
This is complete.
Yes, so this is just a conceptual PUD.
Don't
And
have it.
well,
You
so
had-
Let Ally talk.
Yeah, I don't know.
Ron,
if
do you
this
want
would
to
be-
Let Ally present their
Yeah.
position.
All right.
We have the plan from the previous meeting. There are
That's not-
changes that are going to be presented tonight,
That's not how it works.
but you do have the conceptual plan in front of you. There will be changes that you should consider for any decision that comes forward, but you do have the plan,
All right. So-
conceptual plan.
Okay, so that's your view. Ally, do you want to come?
yeah,
back
at the conceptual level, the changes recommended at the last meeting and the fact that you now have them for this meeting or will be presented to you, because the level of this review, we do deem this complete and ripe for your review at this meeting. And we, just to place on the record and make it very clear, we would hold the same position if this were not the town as an applicant. And with so anyone else who had similar recommendations from the last meeting to this meeting and also came in at the conceptual PUD level to provide plans, we would also allow to move forward.
Other
So this
thoughts,
is not
comments,
this
Peter?
is not a noticing challenge. This is not a challengeable thing. If drawings aren't available that could be voted on that weren't publicly available and things like that.
Well, they will be at this meeting.
Wait, so, but Peter had a different question. Could somebody later challenge the fact?
This is a
that-
challengeable thing, I think, but not.
No. So they will be presented at this meeting. The application from the prior meeting is still the application of the applicant. Now they changed things pursuant to your comments at the last meeting, which will be presented at this meeting. Public comment will be accepted at this meeting. Notice of the matter has been provided on the agenda.
Peter, any concur?
I'm just not comfortable weighing in on this application. It's crazy.
All right, Kathy.
I've been on this board for a while. I've never seen an
Understatement.
application like this before with nothing, most of it missing until it was presented tonight. I've been a little frustrated with the PUD process since it changed a long time ago, that conceptual is basically the first very serious step and then the next one. And then, the final step, we never even see it. It's merely staff. So like Peter, I'm concerned. I would love to be doing this as a work session tonight. And I will listen, but I don't think it's fair to the neighbors. I don't think it's fair to our town, and I don't think it's fair to our board or our staff that we're being forced to hear this tonight.
So, Ally, I think it is within our purview. We have the ability to reschedule this as a work session regard, even so. Is that correct or not?
So because we have an active application, we can't now go back to work session unless the applicant pulls the application. So your options tonight would be to continue this for the next meeting with specific direction to the applicant to submit those plans if you want to see those prior to the next meeting, or you can move forward with considering it.
All right, what do we want to do? Does anybody have a view?
I would vote for continuation, based on, where we are.
Others, their thoughts?
I would either vote to continue it now or to listen to what they have to say and then continue it. But I'm not going to vote for a decision on it tonight.
Other, you guys have any views, Angela? Todd?
I've got lots of comments, but
Well, here's my suggestion, and we can see what we think about this. Let's see what the changes are. And then maybe that will inform whether we can feel comfortable with voting or whether we want to continue. How do we feel about that? No?
I am not gonna vote for this based on where we are with it. I would continue it. I'm happy to look at it if that's the preference of the board, but not to vote. That's,
Todd, do you have a
I
comment?
am not gonna vary on that.
Okay, I'm just curious, Todd.
My position is very unique because I am recused.
Ah.
But as a member of the public, I have to submit my comments to you in writing, but I haven't seen it, so I can't write about it.
Yeah, well, that's
That's
exactly.
that's a good example.
That is exactly the problem, that we have no comments. All right, so I'm going to put forward a motion and we'll see where everybody is. Is that, how do we feel about that?
Great.
All right, I move that we continue this project
Ideally.
to whenever they get their act together and submit the drawings timely. There a second?
I'll second.
All right,
I would like to amend it
discussion.
when they had submit their entire submittal in advance with time for public comment and proper review by all aspects of staff in this board.
I accept that amendment.
As do I.
Madam Chair, may I make a comment?
We're in board discussion.
well,
Sorry,
it was seconded, right? So we're in discussion.
we're in board discussion now. There's a motion on the floor. Sorry. Is there any further discussion among the voting members of the board? With this thought?
This is something Todd could vote on, is that?
No,
right?
No, we can't.
Okay,
He's-
because it's a specific to
he's
this
a
item.
neighbor.
Yeah.
All right, I guess we're gonna vote. All in favor of
I guess
continuing?
I have one question. So you're not continuing this to the December
Continuing it,
14 meeting?
as Kathy said, we're continuing it to a point where the submission is complete.
Okay, so they'll have to meet the noticing requirements for a new hearing.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
Noticing and have stuff available for all the neighbors to review in a timely fashion and make their comments.
All right, all in favor?
Wait,
Oh, sorry, wait. Oh, we're not accepting
There's
comments right now. We're
just
having
board
dis-
discussion,
Board
right?
discussion right now, and we have to vote on the motion. Sorry. We could withdraw the motion if we want to hear the comments. I think we want to vote. Is that correct? Or do you want to hear comments first?
I think if we hear anything, we need to hear from staff, and we've got other staff than just Ron here.
That's correct. Well, Peter, should we withdraw the motion and hear comments first?
I'm fine either way. Sure.
All right, I withdraw the motion.
Okay.
Is that correct? Okay, and we can now hear comments from staff. Staff?
Thank you so much. I was upstairs and missed the very beginning of this discussion. My understanding is that we do not have a complete application for review. Is that accurate?
We have a difference of opinion.
Yes, there we go.
It's, it's not reviewable tonight, I don't think, with not being able to view, not hearing public comment or letters. I don't know how you write a staff report, Ron, without having drawings, honestly. I'm impressed.
I
Well,
think
he didn't.
we are feeling, well, we understand that legal and planning professionals have told us we could hear it tonight. We feel like we were not given enough time to digest the information before the meeting. We did not have a staff report covering every aspect. We don't have a staff report on what Public Works thinks about this.
We don't have any public comment.
We don't
because
have
they
any
haven't had the
public
opportunity.
comment. They can only submit their comments in writing. And, you know, we feel that it's very awkward. And since we only get to have conceptual review and preliminary review, and we're not involved in final review, we want to continue this until we have complete applications with complete analysis in a timely fashion. You know,
By the relevant staff.
by the relevant staff, and that there's adequate notification to the public about when this hearing will be, and it could be December 14th, it could be whatever date in January that we meet.
And I'll
Um,
add on to
does it-
that. if I
yes,
could,
Angela.
Lenny. I think we need to all be very careful here because this is a town project. We need to go above and beyond the transparency. And that includes having the ability for the public to weigh in. It's a very prominent site. It's the entrance to town, essentially. So that, you know, if people have comments, they need to submit them. That this should not, we know the urgency for getting the project in the ground. That's, I think, acknowledged by everyone. But I think that we need to be especially sensitive to that situation. And while Ally tells us we can do this, it doesn't mean that that's something we're all comfortable with.
I don't think this is not close to right. This is not close to the process that.
Well, then we should continue it, and that's our option. Is there any other staff comment? Dan,
No,
did you-
it's,
Dan, this is an opportunity for you to comment.
Thank you. My comment was simply, in my mind, I'm just trying to understand your position on what the harm is in hearing from the applicant, hearing the presentation, still retaining the option to continue, not further delaying the process, given that I'm sure the applicant has reviewed with staff that they felt they had a complete presentation given to you, and hearing your concerns certainly loud and clear, but why not give them the opportunity to
Well,
present what they felt they had this evening?
okay, so this was why I thought we could have a work session, but I understand that that is not an option. And therefore, I'm not inclined to spend time when we can't really provide comments. We're not allowed to have a work session. We can't re-agendize it that.
But it's
Well,
not re-agendizing.
We can hear it as a conceptual review tonight,
And then vote to continue.
and then vote to continue, and we can give, in our vote to continue, we can give a list of what we hear. And I'm vaguely comfortable with that, but I'm actually really upset that we got the submittal the way we got it. And I do totally believe that the town has to go beyond. This is a public-private partnership with the town. I have my skeptical aspects of public-private partnerships, and this is like blowing, enforcing my concerns about them in general. But if we're asking the private sector and 100% private to jump through a hoop, we should be asking the town and any involvement to jump through 2 hoops to prove that those hoops are easy to jump through and fair. So the town project, whether it's 100% town or public-private, should never, other than getting priority on an agenda, but it should never be, considered, like an incomplete application. I mean, we've had big hearings on whether an application was complete or not and could be heard from the private sector. And that's, you know, if I would have loved to have had a opportunity to say this is an incomplete application, but I can listen to their presentation tonight, or I can wait and have a more complete and analyzed one the next.
I mean, that, the advantage to doing it, just continuing it, is that then we would hear from the public, and our staff, and we would have everything presented in context. Yes, Angela.
Well, as a point of order, so we could hear the presentation, we have the consultants here, we have staff here. So we could hear that, but not take that forward. We could give them some feedback or not. And Kathy's suggesting that we can give them some feedback about on an individual basis that might be added
No,
to
it's
that.
the reasons for our continuance and the direction you get to give when we continue.
You can do that.
Yeah.
So that would make everybody feel more comfortable. Peter,
sure does
you've
someone
made,
from
you've
here.
made your position clear. Do we have a majority who wants to hear from the applicant? Or not?
Whatever, I mean, I'm just mortified that we're doing an incomplete application.
Well, we don't have to do it. We can continue. That's the option.
That's where we were.
Peter's taking the hard line, and
I'm on the fence, frankly, because I didn't hear the original presentation.
other thoughts? All right, I'm gonna put my motion up to continue again, and then we'll see how where we are.
Second it.
Okay. My motion, is the same motion. Do I have to repeat it?
It's exactly the same.
It's exactly the same motion. Peter seconds it. All right, all in favor of continuing? All right, we're continuing this to a future date.
To a date certain, or?
No.
To a
to a-
future date when they can meet the application.
So it's been tabled then?
No,
They continue.
continue.
Continued.
I didn't know you could continue
Yeah,
to a date
it's-
certain. I'm just trying to.
Yeah,
wrap my head
it's
around
been
process.
continued to a date in the future when the materials are submitted in time for the packet.
Understood. Thank you.
All right, moving right along. Our second item. Is everybody, now I know there are various recusals, so whoever has to go sit in the green room, please do so. All right, this is lot 7 to 9, block E, NTA, small scale preliminary subdivision. Summary, consideration by the of a small scale preliminary subdivision to create a lot of 9,375 square feet by vacating lot lines and buying 3 existing lots. Full description is lot 7 to 9, block E, North Telluride, addition to the town of Telluride. Address TBD. Zone District Hillside Transitional, owner Tio Rico LLC, applicant Joseph A. Solomon, Solomon Law Firm PC, and our staff member is Ron. Are you recused, Kathy?
Yes, I have an adjacency problem. The corner of this project practically touches the corner of what
Okay,
the lot I live on.
we'll see you soon.
Well, within 75.
We'll see, please stick around for the rest of the agenda. All right, Ron.
Thank you, Chair. This is an application for a small scale subdivision. You probably are thinking, well, I've seen this before. You have. Immediately adjacent to the west, this application was considered by Planning and Zoning Commission a couple of years ago and was approved in a similar fashion. Just a little bit of history. Again, right now, this parcel is divided into 3 separate lots. Separate lots include 7, 8, and 9. To the west, lots 10, 11, and 12 were subdivided to a single parcel. A little bit of history on why this is evolving. Back in 1990, back in the 70s, 1974, I believe, the town agreed with the owner, Ralph B. Wood, to exchange several lots that were considered undevelopable for the 3 tracts that included lots 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, block E, and 13, 14, 15, and 16 of the same block. Since that transfer or exchange happened, lots 13, 14, and 15 and 16 were transferred back to the town of Telluride. When the exchange happened back in 1974, the town agreed to vacate the alley between lots 9 and 12 and 13 and 16, Block E. The land exchange was occurred at the same period for lots 7 to 12, Block E, 13 to 16, Block E, that were transferred to Mr. Wood, and lots 17, 18, Block E to the town, lots 7 through 18, Block F to the town. The 1974 agreement also established some limitations on the tracts that were created, the 3 tracts. They were considered a single tract, even though there were multiple lots. The agreement required between the town and the property owner required that the single tract be considered a single tract, not separate lots. No lot would be sold separately. Only one residential structure would be allowed on the tract, and the residential structure may contain no more than 2 dwelling units. 1979, an addendum was approved by the town council, establishing some or more specific criteria. The important part of this addendum was to establish conformance with the hillside residential zone that was created at the same period under Ordinance 270. Then in 1984, the vacation of the alley occurred and was recorded, became an official vacation. So the intent of the application is to create a single lot to reflect the single tract that is established by the agreement. It would create lots 7R, a 9,375 square foot lot from the 3 lots that are 3,125 square feet each. Again, this is similar to the minor subdivision that was approved 2 years ago to the west. And with that, I'll conclude my comments and answer any questions you might have.
Are there questions for Ron? All right, let's proceed. Is there a presentation by the applicant?
One question.
Yes, Todd, sorry.
Telluride ballot issue 300. The first one doesn't apply
No.
because this is hillside transition.
No, it doesn't apply because it was interpreted as an agreement with the town,
Okay.
and that it's established an agreement for a single tract or a single lot.
Ron, can you decipher whether or not there was an anticipation that there would be obviously 1 unit on this and that there would be no limit in terms of the square footage of that unit? Time that agreement was made?
Well, I think that's the important part of the addendum that was approved by the town council. They established that it has to meet the requirements
Of
of
the
the
hillside,
hillside
right.
residential zone.
Do we have a presentation by the applicant or not?
I mean, I'm here. This is Joe Solomon, and
Sorry.
Ron has laid it out very well. So I don't really have much more to add other than, yeah, Todd, Brown, I had the same question when I got this assignment 2 years ago for the other lots. How does this impact lot 300 or resolution 300? And it was a pre-existing agreement. That was my understanding. And yes, it just can be one structure. It can be a duplex. I actually happen to know that this property just sold and the new owner is just building a small single family home about 2,500 square feet.
All right, are there any questions for the applicant? No? All right, let's proceed to board discussion. Thoughts about this?
Seems pretty straightforward.
And
And we have precedents.
Exactly.
Yeah, this seems like we are already committed.
So just looking at these lots or former lots into one are bisected by Tomboy Road. I see that sort of in the vicinity. And I see it referenced on the plat as well to one side, sort of just notionally.
We have the map back, Ron, so we can see what Peter's talking about.
I'm just looking, it's the plat or.
Yeah, because these are north-south lots with Tomboy.
And
And show us,
go down.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, a
Oh,
few more
yeah.
Pages,
Yeah.
just past Joe's letters and his stuff. There we go.
There we go.
So you see Tomboy on the right side of the three lots. And you can see it a little more clearly in the, zoom in on the vicinity below. I think I heard mention of a single, 2,500 square foot home, single structure, having sort of awareness of Tomboy and potential for something to be uphill or downhill or both. That's,
I'm not sure there's enough land to put it uphill.
no, I'm not, well, I don't know. Is it a trash enclosure? Is it a, some cut into a hillside? Is there a limitation, Joe, to the downhill portion or not more than one structure, or is that?
Well, it does say not more than one structure. So, Peter, Sante, I think the replat should show Tomboy. I'm actually looking at a improvement survey plat that shows it. And I think I should have Foley Associates show Tomboy on this replat. It's important to show it and that where it is. There's no way that he can build on both sides of it. He's got to build on the downhill side. The uphill side's too steep for anything, and I can't imagine. I mean, that would be a hark and a decision, a planning decision. I couldn't imagine someone allowing any kind of structure on the uphill side.
So Tomboy Road does not have an easement?
No, it does. It, for some reason, it's not reflected on this drawing, but the plat to the west actually identified the easement, and it does call it out in this plat, but it needs to be shown.
Yeah.
And there, in the agreement, it actually identified Tomboy Road for the access to these parcels.
Yeah, we'll definitely update the replat to show Tomboy.
Other discussion, questions? Well, are we ready for a motion? Would somebody like to make a motion? I'm trying to find the staff memo here. Yeah, where's Kathy? You here? Angela.
I don't have it in front of me.
Oh, I do. Okay, I'll make a motion. I move for approval of the small scale subdivision.
I'm sorry. This is a public hearing, so we need.
Oh, I'm
public-
sorry. Yes. Do we have public comment?
Seen none online?
Okay.
I've got the motion now here.
Great.
Okay,
Oh, good.
I will read. Okay,
I'll read the next.
I move for approval of the small scale subdivision preliminary plat of lot 7, 8, and 9, block E, North Tyrite Addition, with the condition that the south half of vacated alley lying north of lot 9 between lot 10R and lot 8, block E, North Telluride Addition also be merged with the newly created lot 7R, block E, North Telluride Addition to the town of Telluride.
Todd seconds.
Any further discussion? All in favor? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Should somebody tell Kathy that we're done with this, please? Okay. All right, this is Telluride Hotel. Is anybody recused for this one? No, okay.
Not me.
Good. Telluride Hotel and Residences, PUD and subdivision extension request. Consideration of 1, an extension to a preliminary large-scale subdivision approval pursuant to Land Use Code Section 6-4H. And 2, an extension of a preliminary large-scale planned unit development, PUD approval pursuant to Land Use Code Section 6-309G. Legal description, lots 100A, 102A, 104A, 106A, 108A, 110A, 112A, 114A, 116A, and 118A, Block 12, Town of Telluride, addition to the Town of Telluride. Address 300 East Colorado, Zone District Commercial, owner Town Park Partners LLC, applicant David Spector, Town Park Partners LLC, staff member Ron.
Thank you, Chair. You've seen this one before as well. This is an application for an extension. Give you a little bit of history, the timeline. This originally started back in 2015, May of 2015, when a preliminary PUD and large-scale subdivision was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. However, it expired 1 year later. A new application was submitted in July of the same year and was approved. And that is the subject of the extension. It's received 7 or 6 previous extensions. This will make the 7th extension since the July 14, 2016 PUD approval. A little bit of history on the HARC approvals. October 7, 2015, a large-scale project was approved. It was called the Hotel Ajax.
Remember.
And the large-scale project was extended in June of 2019. The vesting was extended. Then in December of 2019, it expired. New owner, new project was submitted for the park review. May 19 of 2021, the large-scale project was approved. And then the certificate of appropriateness was granted on September 27, 2021. The CA expires in 2024, September 27, 3 years from the approval. So going back a little bit to the history of the PUD when it was granted back in 2016, the variations that were approved were to increase the height up to 40 feet, increase the floor area ratio up to 2 to 1, increase the residential use limitation to 39%, increase the maximum lot size to 33,908 square feet. And then the final variation was to allow for a high intensity use no less than 10 feet from the property line, specifically to the park. 2016 findings of public benefit included a hotel with 50 rooms with ancillary support space, 5 on-site affordable housing mitigation units, on-site parking, quality design with a HARC approval and CA issuance, and a project to revitalize the east end of the commercial core. When this was approved by the town council, there were numerous conditions. This slide is for Peter.
Yeah, we can't see.
So you can read.
I won't go into all the details, but there are numerous conditions as a part of the approval. In the staff memo that we've provided, staff is not making a recommendation. However, if the P and Z approves the extension, we would recommend that the following conditions be a part of the approval: that the expiration of the preliminary PUD and subdivision shall have the same expiration date as the HARC CA approval, which is September 27, 2024. And this one's a little bit unorthodox. No other extension shall be granted by the Planning and Zoning Commission beyond September 27, 2024. And that concludes the presentation. Glad to answer questions.
Questions for Ron? Kathy?
I think we've changed our employee housing regulations and multipliers, whether it's the square foot per employee, whether it's how much, all that since 2014. And so if you go back to the benefits page,
Oh, sorry.
on up there. The 5 benefits, 6 benefits, whatever they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My computer is.
No, that's-
Nope,
that's
wrong
the
application.
previous.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's a lot going on tonight.
For some reason, my cursor is just not.
There it is.
There it is.
There we go.
Okay, they were supposed to be mitigating 100% of their employee housing. If you go back to that, you didn't state it
Stop.
that way. And they were supposed to be mitigating 100% of their parking. So that was on site. So that was part of the benefits, was this 100% mitigation. And I feel like we no longer have 100% affordable housing mitigation under our guidelines today. I didn't try to figure it out, but I'm pretty sure we don't. And I also feel like today, that's my question is, you know, where's our difference on employee housing? You know, how many square feet or
Do you have
whatever
any idea, Ron?
we are short.
I don't have an answer for you on
Yeah.
that. I don't have a specific calculation.
Yeah. And I just wanted to see if we could get that calculation.
Can we assume that we are short? If
but
this were to come before us today?
Doesn't an extension go back? to-
Yes.
But if we were to approve, saying if we were to approve this extension, we are approving a mitigation requirement where we would have.
If we were to
Well,
hear
then
a
I'll bring
new
it up. We'll
application.
discuss this more, yeah. And-
Okay, we don't know the answer. All right.
And I don't know if our parking has changed enough to change whether we still have 100% on-site parking or not.
No, I mean,
That's another unknown.
I mean, at the time, of course, restaurants are required parking. They don't require parking now. That's a little
that
bit
the
of a
restaurant?
change.
Yes. Okay, other questions for Ron?
Yeah, speaking of five findings here, quality design with a HARC approval and CA issued. Where would we stand with that now? Has there been any change? Yeah.
Yeah, in fact,
That
the
It's
image,
until next year, right?
yeah, the image you're looking at was the HARC approval, and it has been issued a
It's valid.
certificate of
Okay.
appropriateness.
Yeah,
It's valid until September 27, 2024.
of next year, yes.
What, can I ask a question? Why is that a public benefit? Doesn't it have to have HARC approval?
I was curious.
That was the benefit identified in 2016.
Okay. Yes, Peter.
Ron, your two offered motions, the one that was a denial, that, just so I'm tracking, I don't know what direction the board wants to go, obviously, but in that instance, it would put the applicants into a kind of a speed up to wrap it up
That's
in
correct.
a more abbreviated fashion that might get amended
Well, I mean,
later, or,
they'd have to get it all recorded before December
right?
deadline. And that's
can ask the
something that the applicant would be glad to share with you, whether that's possible or not.
Did you have other questions for Ron? No, all right, let's hear from the applicant.
Good evening. Good to see you guys again. I'm
Really?
here today. My name is David Spector. I'm here today with DJ Gratzer with 4240. And he's part of the new team at 4240 that has been brought onto this project this year. And also our attorney, who you guys know.
We can't say hi. I thought.
Frequent flyer.
Anyways, we want to thank the board and town staff for taking the time to meet with us tonight. This has been a project that has been in the making for a long time. We're humbled to be here. And on behalf of Town Park Partners, we're requesting an extension for the Telluride Hotel and Residence preliminary PUD and subdivision approvals. What have we done and where are we going? We have spent the last year advancing the project, number one, to confirm the constructability of the development. And number two, to design and program every square inch in this development to right size all spaces. We have accomplished these tasks with a new team of talented professionals and experts in their field, each of whom have experience working in mountain town environments and in towns like this. While the goal is to develop a profitable project, we also feel a tremendous responsibility to build a building that will be a community asset and provide a gathering space for the town of Telluride. Preceding our meeting last year with this board, we successfully advanced the easement negotiations with San Miguel Power Association and came to terms with them in principle to modify such easement. Telluride is a special place, and in my opinion, one of the best towns in North America. With all the charm, authenticity, and the undeveloped surrounding landscape come a set of challenges. These challenges make for a very difficult environment to build, regardless of size and scale. In Q1 of this year, prior to advancing the plans to submit for a building permit, our pre-construction services GC informed us that we need to redesign the excavation plan to build a sound foundation. Given the difficult groundwater conditions, we spent more time than anticipated, approximately 6 months, the first half of 2023, studying the project impacts and potential solutions related to foundations and waterproofing. These studies concluded that the foundation needed to be completely redesigned as a single uniform foundation rather than 2 separate foundation structures as previously designed. During this period, we advanced the work for the initial construction period. During the previous period, we advanced the work for the initial construction period budget. However, this year, we were able to get sophisticated groundwater control, a sophisticated groundwater control plan developed, a design system, and commitment from a competent contractor to execute the shoring and dewatering. This work was completed mid-July, and the architects and structural engineer rushed to revise the plans thereafter to submit to HARC approval for the review and considerations. On August 8th, HARC approved the changes to the plans. The single simpler structure solution improves the constructability and simplifies the waterproofing system for the building. Thereafter, in August, we were able to revise and recommence the program design and development phase, which some of you guys know as the DD phase, with input from a hotel operator. This phase allowed us to repurpose space internally, enhancing all aspects, increasing functionality to affordable housing units and hotel rooms and other areas in the hotel. Subsequently, we completed the MEP and structural pricing set to finalize the plan with SAMPA, which needs to be complete for the easement. All of this planning takes a lot of time. We have completed all the work and have submitted and will be submitting the plan to SAMPA for their review and consideration. Tonight, we'd like to share with you briefly the affordable housing advancements that have been made and program changes to those units. Additionally, we have added improved back of house areas for hotel employees, which allows them to have locker rooms and other areas to have a good work environment. Additionally, this year, we have allowed the town to use the lot for the July 4th festival. Every single festival that came to us, we allowed them to use. And we're currently in discussions with the town to use the lot for the winter season for parking and staging to advance the Voodoo Affordable Housing Project so that it is completed on time and on budget. As referenced in the staff memo, if the board is favorable to granting an extension, we would like to align the extension with the following conditions placed on the approvals. The expiration of the preliminary PUD and subdivision shall have the same expiration date of the HARC CA of September 27th, 2024. No other extensions will be granted by the Planning and Zoning Commission beyond September 27th, 2024. We want to do this project and need a little bit more time to make sure everything comes together to reasonably confirm the financial viability of the development. We feel good about the hotel operator and are excited about their ability to operate in the town of Telluride. We completed the pricing set last Friday and are out for updated pricing with multiple contractors and subs. In closing, we are at the finish line and ask that you work with us for this short-term extension so that we can advance the project and build a special place that in 20, 50, and 100 years, we are all proud that we built. Thank you for your time and consideration. what we'd like to do is spend some time with you, just briefly reviewing the slides for the affordable housing units.
Go ahead.
I'm going to invite DJ to walk us through those things.
We call it the starting line rather than the finishing.
Yeah.
It's good comment.
I agree, it will be the starting line.
Let's finish at one and the start of the end.
It's the beginning of the end, the end of the beginning.
It's like there might be a
Delay.
delay.
Do you have the slides that we submitted by any chance?
No, I can pull them up if that's easier for you. You'll just give me a minute and I'm happy to do that.
Maybe we'll just share again. Do a stop share.
Mhm.
Oh, here we are.
So in summary, we have the same number of affordable housing units. However, we've reworked the studios to be true 1-bedrooms and made lots of improvements when it comes to storage, washer and dryers, and even adding a bathroom to the larger 3-bedroom unit so that actually has kind of a master bedroom with an ensuite condition. So this is just kind of the before and after of how we've reworked them from kind of page left to page right. What was a studio unit became a 2-bedroom and shifted things over so that there's now always kind of one area for living, one area for kitchen and dining, and separate bedrooms rather than more of a kind of a studio all in one. Next unit, where another studio became a true 2-bedroom. And then here where what was a 2-bedroom became a 1-bedroom, but rather than being a studio, it functions much more like a market rate unit. And similarly here with this, that was a 2-bedroom became a little bit better of a more luxurious 1-bedroom. And then this 3-bedroom where we were able to, in the corner here, work in an ensuite, so you have more of a master bedroom and 2 secondary bedrooms.
And what you'll notice, and it's maybe hard to tell from this, without zooming in, every single unit has a washer and dryer. I know it's not looking like a huge growth in square footage, but a small percentage in these units makes a big difference. And from our perspective, we wanted every unit to have a livable feel. So it's not just a place that you can sleep and cook your breakfast in. If you look at the 1-bedrooms, for example, going from a studio apartment where your room's in the back and not having a living room or a functional kitchen, we've taken an apartment unit that has a really nice bathroom, a washer and dryer, a nice kitchen, an eating area, a living space. So we've really provided, a sense of, let's call it living. It's and these are in a great area of the project. So, this was just one of the enhancements that we've done. We've also made enhancements to the rooms as well. But our thought was, moving forward with this project, is everything needs to be designed so that we have the long-term success for this project. That said, some of these decisions, particularly in building the foundation, it's a complex project. There's limited labor, particularly locally, that has the knowledge to do that. So we had to go out and find people that are very familiar with doing things like this. And we were able to find a group. It took us longer than we wanted to, but we were able to find a group after working with a very good groundwater control, developing a good groundwater control plan. We found a drilling company that basically builds dams all over the country and is very familiar with this. And they don't come into this project and they're not nervous. They have the expertise. They're actually would be coming from Salt Lake. and, you know, they can tackle this project. 2 years ago, we had budgets. Now we actually have numbers. We need to take the plans that we just advanced and finished this past week and get real numbers for the remaining part of the project. You know, it's nice when you go into HARC and you have these plans that everything's designed from the outside. But if you don't have the mechanicals and the systems and the plumbing, the vents, the shafts, that all takes time to be done. And if it's not done with the right structural engineers and the right MEP people, you're not gonna have a successful project. And that's what we've done this year. And we've spent a lot of money to do it. The timing didn't align perfectly, but we really are really at that last point.
So, are you finished?
Yes.
I interrupt you. So I have a few questions and then we'll have other questions for the applicant. Did you, in your reworking of the units that we just looked at here, add or subtract beds, or is it the same?
We actually added. So we went from 2 studio apartments to, well, did we add
The
beds?
number of beds is the same, the square footage is 5% more than it was in the project previously,
Right.
but the number of beds is the same.
But I would ask, you know, would you rather live in a studio or a 1-bedroom?
Right, well, actually, a 1-bedroom can be lived in by 2 people, much more easily
Right.
than a studio, in fact. So,
So-
you know, yes, I got it. Okay.
It depends on how you look at it.
Some of us have lived 2 people in a studio.
Yes, and we have 2.
In our long ago life.
Yeah, it's not a long-term solution.
I mean, I'll you know, just this one unit that we're looking at here is 785 square feet. My first apartment in New York City was 450 square feet, and that was a 1-bedroom, and you know.
People
lived
live
in
in
there
very
for a
small
long
spaces
time.
here too, but I just was curious about the beds. And my second question was, when you were here for your last extension before us, the problem was that you hadn't gotten to a resolution with Sampa.
Correct.
Are we done with that now? Or are you still working on the Sampa? I want to hear it from the applicant.
Sampa has agreed to, and Ron, I'm sorry, Tom can speak to this a little bit more, but what they were asking for previously was an exclusive easement of the alley. They are no longer asking for that, and they've agreed in principle to move forward with a utility easement, allowing other utility providers to also place their utilities in that alley.
In that right of way.
In the right of way, yeah.
Tom, did you want to comment further about where you are in the Sampa negotiations? And can you stand up so I can see you too?
We can recognize your butt best, but we'd like to see all of you.
Well, actually, we would take more of the discussions. I mean, I drafted it the way that we wanted. I think that the text is probably okay. We just need to make sure that the utility plans that we're proposing align with their construction guidelines. That's really the issue. It's not the easement itself. It's that there's a lot going on in that utility corridor. So where we want to put power lines, it's aligning with where the gas lines are going to go, the water, the sewer lines. That's really the issue. And so I think that's the thing that needs to get resolved. I think the easement agreement is generally in place, is agreed to. It's really that utility plan that needs to get solved.
And on that, because we've recently completed the MEPs and structural work, we now actually know the real load requirements to run the systems of this building. So now we're able to build a plan with civil.
That coordination.
Yes. Which we can do, you know, we just spoke to civil today. We plan to do that right after Thanksgiving and submit that to them.
Are there other questions we have?
In our community action plan, we're looking for a time 10 years out, maybe 15, when we'll be in beneficial electric. So have you thought about this building becoming all electric in 10 or 15 years? Since we're talking about
We're
electric
looking at different systems right now. I think it really, we're not prepared to commit to an all-electric building today.
No, but I just want it to be able to become all electric at a trigger point in the future and not be built in a way that it has to always have natural gas.
Right.
Which could be a public benefit.
Yeah, that would be.
There are new public benefits.
That would be a huge new bill.
I think it's from a MEP perspective, it's something that we would need to look at. And what would be the requirements today and changes to the plans to make those agreements. We're all for building things that are beneficial to the environment. I mean, this is why we're here. We want to see this beautiful landscape survive, testament of time. And you know, it's important that we make the right decisions. But we have to also do it with the engineers, and I just don't want to commit to something that
Right.
I think they're saying just make sure the infrastructure can accommodate.
Yeah, we will look into that.
Smart decisions for those opportunities.
Yeah.
For the future, right, Angela?
One of the technical things that has plagued this site is dewatering and groundwater.
Yes.
Has there been any changes to that approach? Because you're right next to the river and the wetlands there and parkland.
Sure, and the dewatering obviously is just temporary. It's for the temporary shoring and dewatering during construction. The long-term solution does not have dewatering. It's a full bathtub configuration.
Right. Good.
And what we've gone to not without cost, but it definitely simplifies the structural detailing, the waterproof detailing, and really the complexities of dewatering during construction is a full mat foundation. So you could think of the building like a big boat that doesn't float and doesn't leak.
We had two separate systems
Understood.
prior to
Understood.
save
Yep.
significant amount of money. And we just decided that we were going to move away from that because it created a challenge from the dewatering and the waterproofing systems.
And as you made that change, did one of your, consultants either provide an opinion or a study on what that would do to groundwater movement around that foundation? Because right across the street, we've got another town project. And if you're going to raise the groundwater 3 feet across the street by pushing it around your foundation, has that been looked at?
Yes, and that was what it had taken us so long to do. And our whole objective was to look at it from what is the most efficient way to tackle this issue. And not even efficient, what is the only way that we can do it so that this building can get built on time and on budget, a foundation that's going to last.
Taking into account neighboring situations.
Absolutely. We're very cognizant of and sensitive to the neighbors.
You did have a condition of that. I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other questions for the applicants?
It is a
Okay,
public hearing,
Well, there's a public hand, great.
public
Yes.
hearing.
Yes, oh, yes, I know. Do we have public comment, Tiffany?
I don't see any hands up.
Okay. So let's move on to board discussion. This is a comment, not a question, so I'll just comment. I appreciate your taking my suggestion last time that you provide parking on your lot during construction, and I hope you can continue to do that because it has made a difference. You can see in the festivals.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I ditto that the fact that you've shared this space with a number of festivals in the town and the AHA school and everything has been wonderful. a great help to other construction. I don't know what you're gonna do.
I was gonna say, what?
No empty space nearby for you to use. but-
We're gonna miss that opportunity, but we also feel like
Yeah.
we need to move forward with the construction of this
Yeah.
project, so.
You might want to rent the commercial space in Voodoo is second available for some,
Yeah.
or something. I don't know. It might help, but I'm not sure.
All right, so board discussion, thoughts about this? extension?
Yeah, it sounds,
Yeah?
my initial reaction to 7 extensions was, oh my God, here we go again. However, there was a change in ownership, and so it's really a reset in my mind to 3 or 4. The complexity and what they have been discussing here about what they have tried to do and work through from an engineering standpoint tells me that they're thinking it through. So the extension for the new foundation design maybe wasn't anticipated, so that's kind of a pass for me. Sampa, we know from the Voodoo situation, isn't the easiest group to work with regard to easements, and we're all paying for that. We would have another, not quite a year for all of this to wrap up, essentially, the way we have written conditions, so. Yeah.
Other thoughts?
I like your, this is the final extension. But having lived and worked in this town. as long as I have,
Final is,
Good luck with that.
Final is never the final.
Well, let's hope it is.
Well, if we
They're
make it,
willing to accept it.
if they're right, if we do this,
Well, they're on notice, let's put it.
you're on notice, yeah.
Peter,
I was on HARC when this went through in 2014 and 15. And sat through a number of meetings, prior owners. I'm convinced that the project's for real. I hadn't been a part of more recent extensions or been in front of you guys as applicants, but I'm encouraged by that. I hope it happens. So I'm ready.
all right. Kathy.
I came in thinking I'm never going to.
I was
7th
with you.
extension because there's several other projects that, there's one that goes back to the 1990s and it's not built yet. But I really like what you've done with employee housing. Maybe it's only 190 or 180 square foot gain, but you're giving, making quality space where they can hang out and not just never go there, so I appreciate that. And you could have finished this, not the Sampa part, but you could have finished everything else without your MEPs. You can do that later because, all you need to do to get final is like sign all the things and record it. You don't have to build anything. So, that's the interesting thing, that it hasn't happened. And thank God we did not do a 6-month extension because we were asked for a year ago. We did longer. So I will probably reluctantly support this, but I definitely am going to stand behind no more extensions. Just go out and record this, and then you're going to have to wrestle with your budget. And yeah, your foundation scares me, and I've built more than one house with basements that are basically totally underwater. Still lose sleep over them.
Yeah.
Question about the SMPA piece and possibility of all electric at some point. My experience with those conversations, larger or bigger transformers, larger service, which is sort of challenging with gathering and recording whatever you're sort of so close with them, but hopefully that can be incorporated so that you don't sort of get boxed in on that front based on this.
Big enough footprint for ground source.
try and give them some room. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're not saying you have to do electric 100% now. It's just plan for it, whether the Sampa says they want this much room, make sure they can have twice as much when you have to ask for more electricity in the future. And hopefully all of our high-tech work will make
Small.
electrical requirements smaller so that you can run this whole building with much less electricity than it would take if you were to go 100% today.
Yeah, totally understand.
So are we ready to have a motion?
Yeah, I can make the motion.
Oh,
Have it.
good.
I move to approve an extension of the preliminary large-scale subdivision and preliminary large-scale planned unit development at 300 East Colorado Avenue by Town Partners LLC to expire on December 26th, on 22nd, 2023, with the following conditions based on the information within staff memo of record
Question,
dated.
wait,
It
stop.
should be that-
Stop. It should not be to expire on December 22nd.
No, that's 24, right?
That's written wrong.
No
It's written wrong.
extensions shall be granted.
Yeah,
Right,
but
well,
it
no,
doesn't.
it should read to expire
Extension should
on
expire.
September
27th.
27th, 2024.
Yeah,
That's-
Angela.
That's amended from the motion that was written
Mm-hmm.
with the following conditions based on the information within the staff memo
Well,
of record dated November
it's
3rd,
September.
2023. The first one being the expiration of the preliminary PUD and subdivision shall have the same expiration date of Hark CA, which is September 27th, 2024. And two, no other extension shall be granted by P and Z beyond that date of September 27th, 2024. This motion is based on evidence and testimony provided at a public hearing held on November 16th, 2023, with notice of such hearing provided as required by the Telluride Land Use Code. Right?
Well, Ron had
We
his
need a
hand up.
second.
Second by Todd.
Thank you. Now we can discuss the motion. Ron, did you have a?
I mean, this
problem with-
was to expire December 22nd, 2023.
Oh, the current,
Was-
this refers to the current one, in other words? I'm sorry, I didn't read it
Yeah,
that way.
that was not obvious. I'm so sorry.
You want to try again?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it. caught
I
me
thought.
They-
it was-
off
As
guard.
written.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming back. I move to approve an extension of the preliminary large-scale subdivision and preliminary large-scale planned unit development at 300 East Colorado Avenue by Town Partners LLC, which is due to expire on December 22nd, 2023,
Mhm.
with the following conditions based on the information within the staff memo of record dated November 3rd, 2023. One, the expiration of the preliminary PUD and subdivision shall have the same expiration date of Hark CA of September 27th, 2024. And no other extensions shall be granted by the Planning and Zoning Commission beyond September 27th, 2024. This motion is based on evidence and testimony provided at a public hearing held on November 16th, 2023. Notice of such hearing provided as required by the Telluride Land Use Code.
Do you accept the motion as amended?
I accept.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor? The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you for your time and consideration, guys, tonight.
Thank you. We hope we don't see
Appreciate
you
it.
again.
Yeah.
Hope it made it clear.
Not at this rate.
You could not have Telluride in the final name. of
Oh,
this
that's just the
building, that would be
placeholder.
Great.
That's
There's too many
There are a
Telluride.
lot of
We're
Telluride.
trying to
hotels.
do Hotel Colorado like shown on the
Uh-huh.
plans, but that's, I think a
Already
little bit of a
That's in
conflict.
Glenwood
They'll be upset.
and maybe a couple other places.
All right.
I
so
am recused from
Yes.
the next application as the applicant, so I'm
Okay.
gonna step away.
Goodbye.
Oh, well, he's gonna step to the other side.
Yep. Please-
Yeah.
Please remain present.
2-minute break.
Do we need a break? How about a 2-minute break? Peter wants a 2-minute break. Bye. All right, so public hearing item number 4, project title 228 West Columbia minor subdivision. Consideration of a minor subdivision to modify a plat note. Legal description, lot 6B, block 19, Town of Telluride, addition to the Town of Telluride, address 228 West Columbia, zone district historic residential, owner 228 West Columbia LLC. Applicant, law offices of Thomas G. Kennedy and Peter Sante Architects. Staff member Ron.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think you've seen this one before, but this,
Actually have several times.
this is an application for a minor subdivision. Typically, a minor subdivision goes to the chair
Chair.
level for review. However, this plat is somewhat unorthodox. It includes a plat note that limits the structure. And it was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. So we determined that it was appropriate to bring this forward for a full commission review. Back in 1992, a portion of lot 8, block 19, and all of lot 6 was divided into lot 6A and lot 6B. Lot 6A was the traditional orientation towards North Oak Street, while lot 6B had a new orientation towards West Columbia Avenue. At the time this plat was recorded, or prior to approval, there was concern expressed by HARC and Planning and Zoning Commission that this orientation was a little bit wasn't consistent with the pattern that he had evolved with lots that had east-west facing frontages and not a north-south frontage, and also that the accessory building would be subordinate to the primary building. So there was a condition that was placed on the plat to at least try to preserve the character of the uniqueness of the east-west and subordinate structures from the primary structures. Lot 6B was limited to one structure, and the structure height on lot 6B was limited to a ridge height in existence at that time on February 20, 1992. Just to orient you as far as the development of these two lots, the existing garage apartment or garage residence to the south of the lot facing North Oak Street. Since the original approval was granted, a secondary structure has been constructed on the larger lot 6A between the two buildings. The applicant is requesting the following language, replace the current language. Lot 6B is limited to one structure. That's not changing. They're in agreement with that condition. The second condition, the structure height of the roof ridge on the existing structure located on lot 6B at the time of execution and recordation of this plat amendment is measured at 8,835.3 USGS feet above sea level. The structure height of the roof ridge on a new or renovated structure located on lot 6B following the execution and recordation of the plat amendment may extend upward for an additional 4 feet, which shall not exceed an elevation greater than 8,839.3 USGS feet above sea level. In addition to the language proposed or the revised language, the applicant is also requesting clarifying language as part of the plat note to state that the revised lot 6B plat notes shall run with the title to lot 6A and lot 6B, The restrictions contained in the revised Lot 6B plat notes shall run to benefit the town of Telluride and the owner of Lot 6A to the burden of the owner of Lot 6B. The revised Lot 6B plat notes may not be modified, nor may development on Lot 6B deviate from the revised Lot 6B plat notes unless approved by the town of Telluride, as well as the respective owners of Lot 6A and Lot 6B. Might point out that there are covenants that have been signed. The owner of Lot 6A is in agreement with the allowance of this structure to increase by 4 feet above the restriction that was put in place back in 1992. Staff reviewed this application, and in the staff memo, we provided the basis for our recommendation of approval. The request to increase the allowed height by 4 feet is still below what would otherwise be allowed in the HR zoning and is subordinate to the height of the residence on Lot 6A. The request is reasonable as honoring the original intent of the plat note while recognizing altered conditions that include construction of an accessory structure on Lot 6A with access from West Columbia Avenue and the general departure from the earlier development patterns during the 19th century. And again, the plat note is identified as a revised Lot 6B plat note. Staff is recommending that as a condition of this approval that this lot be identified as Lot 6BR. And with that, try to answer any questions you might.
So I have a question. Is the current building at the maximum allowed height or is it lower?
It's lower.
Lower.
6.
It's 6 feet.
6 feet lower. So you're requesting to go up 10 feet. The effect of this would be to go up 10 feet. No, then I'm confused.
Well, I think Peter can
I can clarify.
show
Yes,
some of
go
the
ahead.
or the
This application that the neighbors have supported is requesting an increase in the allowed height for the ridge of 4 feet from what the structure that's there that was a part of the current approval.
Actually is.
Correct. It's 4 feet
Thank you.
taller
Okay.
than the roof, the ridge.
Because it said 4 feet than what's allowed. And I was curious whether allowed means
allowed
existing.
By 2 feet.
Okay.
So we're 6 feet under what the code would allow today per the plat note. We're asking for the plat note to be amended to allow us to increase 4 feet, which is still 2 feet under. what is allowed.
Okay.
There we go.
Clarifying.
Yeah, that was.
Other questions supposedly for Ron? No, all right, let's hear from the applicants.
So I have a couple of opening things. Ron covered a lot of.
Were you?
I'm Tom Kennedy. So, the owners, yeah, I was here the way. 228 West Columbia.
Same one.
LLC, yeah. So it's, the lot's currently improved with a 2-story non-rated structure. And we've heard about what the plat note is. We're here just to amend that plat note. We're not changing lot lines, not doing anything like that. It sits in a flood zone, so we're limited as to what we can do in the basement. So it's a pretty limited site to be working with. 30 years later, we're revisiting that plat note. And there's 2 of them. We're not changing the plat note that talks about the one structure that stays. It really is just that plat note that imposed the restriction on height. And we're asking for some relief on that. Again, asking for relief instead of a 6-foot reduction, asking that we're allowed to increase by 4 feet, but still staying 2 feet under what the zone would otherwise allow. We're looking to put a modest house in, going through the HARC process. We did actually go to HARC last night, ask them what they thought about mass and scale and height. They, said no issues across the board. They were okay with mass and scale and height as far as that was concerned. We've worked carefully with the neighbors, showing them our goals, objectives, designs, the mass and scale and height. they're okay with it. In fact, you heard that they did sign a covenant that reflected that same height increase that we were talking about. And a copy of that covenant is in your in the application as well. So we think that with the passage of time and what's happened on lot 6A, as well as what's happened in the neighborhood, what might have been the thought process in time 30 years ago might have evolved since that time. And I'm sure Kathy will help us understand that a little bit more. Hopefully I'm sort of right. But we think that given what's gone on some 30 years later, this is a fairly modest request to help us fulfill, you know, the design planning goals and objectives that we have for here. Peter has done some background studies on what's happened with the evolution and history of the neighborhood since that time, which we think further helps support the what we're trying to achieve here. So I'll turn it over to him.
Thank you, Tom. Peter Sante, Sante Architects. I have 6 pages to scroll through, go as quick as possible and turn it over to Kathy. But these were in your packet, so they hopefully look familiar if you had a chance to look through them. This first in this series is more reflective of 30 years ago. The existing structures, the primary sort of historic house on Oak, and then this garage apartment. And the condition back then, as well as some notes, the plat notes. We were able, I did speak to Lance. I couldn't get any memory out of Amy Levick, who was the P&Z staff person. Lance at the time was the Hark side, as I recall, and I got that wrong, but we did see some staff reports, but not sort of detailed discussion. So I think your memories will be helpful, Kathy. But that's where we started. And I think as Tom has described this, the context has changed quite notably in 31
Somebody
years.
blew up all the houses
Yeah, so
like a balloon. Exactly.
you see the historic house to the left. There is an addition behind it, shown addition in blue. There is also, as Tom mentioned, a new accessory garage structure. You can see the little street facing gable for that historic house. You see an addition on the 212 North Oak, north of us, the north half of lot 8, I believe. And you see that in the background. And you see some photos from the vicinity as well. This slide at the bottom, streetscape, includes the not SMPA, the SMVC house. It's not on Columbia, but it's a lot further north and on Pine. That ridge, and you mentioned, you asked this question last night on it at Hark. That ridge that's highlighted with the red numbers, I can't quite read, but I know them to be 7 feet higher than our ridge shown on in our blue house on lot 6B. For comparison, as far as what's subordinate, what are these, how does what we're asking for an approval for tonight on lot 6B relate in its relationship to what you see around it? The addition for the historic house on lot 6A is 5 feet higher than our ridge. These are ridge to ridge. Town measures it a little differently, but just for reference. And I think that equates to about 3 feet higher than the historic ridge, which is not labeled. I do not have a surveyed elevation for the addition on the house north of us at 212, but you can see that's even higher as well. The text here describes reasons why granting a height increase tonight might be appropriate, and I think that the context has changed is the first. I think the second item we've listed there is that what we are proposing is a more compatible type structure in ways than the 1976 garage apartment. The slope of the roof, the materiality is what we would say is more compatible than the 76 structure. That in the vein of the context has changed. The addition of the accessory structure behind the historic home on Oak Street changed what was referenced in some of the P and Z, or at least heart conversations about primary and secondary, that relationship of front to smaller alley structures. With the addition of that new structure, that's become a little murkier or less clear. And the materials I mentioned for the home, I think, are more alley appropriate than what's on the garage today. As a reminder, this, Ron's did a good job describing for us the kind of the challenges of how frontages work and what's appropriate, or what was referenced in some of these memos 30 years ago about contrary to the town grid, which we're sort of interpreting. What did they mean? What was that reference to? And I think it was reorienting frontages from what originally was platted. So what you have on the left here is the original sort of core of town plat. And as Ron's described, we know those original lots, residential lots specifically, fronted north-south streets, and they had east-west, therefore, frontages. This lot 6B has a south frontage on West Columbia, and is the only house on its block that has that. We have a vacant lot south of the SMBC house, and so that one doesn't front to Columbia. And then the historic house on Oak has an Oak address. So the two Sanborn maps, I can't zoom in on here, but there's an 1886 and then a 1908. Even in 1886, there were already the schoolhouse, the town hall reorienting, was in the process of somebody, hey, we're going to build a school here. Why don't we put it this way? And 22 years later, 1908, there's quite a lot more of that in the core, where they just said, why would we do this? And so those are at a glance, and then elaborated on here. There's examples, photographs above and below, historic and contemporary on Columbia, as well as Galena, that show that reorientation onto those streets, as opposed to Pine and Oak that had original frontages.
Does Eleni have to recuse herself because you got a picture of her house?
No, she should feel no guilt. She should appreciate her southern exposure. Anyway, that's what this slide is. And we zoom in on the next page. So this little closer view, that there's two color-coded lots here. The pink ones are lots that have been reoriented in the period of significance from their original frontage to front on Galena or Columbia. And the blue ones are a separate category of tail lots. And I think tail lots weren't really referenced specifically, but were brought up by Lance as a possibility. This was something that had been preceding, I think at the time in Hark, or just the town in general. And there was some heartburn about these and the challenges on a Hark level. Having a 50 by 50 foot lot created rather awkward proportions and abrupt sort of vertical homes on a 2,500 square foot lot. So those, I think, are examples on Galena of existing homes on tail lots. And that was one speculation. Lance said, well, gosh, this was a long time ago. That might have had something to do with why there was some restriction or a focus on trying to keep a subordinate relationship here at 6B. So those are highlighted. I think the other dash lines that you can see kind of running horizontally across the slide indicate 50 feet off of those right-of-ways. And I just want to highlight, unlike the tail lots, which you can see exist just to the rear of one 50-foot historic lot, this lot 6B is a lot and a half. In today's terms, that 6A and 6B together are 3 developable lots. We got a historic home that makes that a little challenging, but lot by lot, that's 3 lots, and we have 2 here. And in today's terms, my opinion, I think our opinion, it seems appropriate for development for a single family home. So that's, I think, basically what it says in the summary below, why we think this is warranted. So if you have any questions or.
Yep. Yeah, if I wasn't able to quite see, but it looks like the front door faces Columbia with a
Right.
sidewalk from the road,
Mhm.
street, and that there is a garage
On the
off
alley.
the alley.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a much. Anyway, I'll comment later.
Other questions for the applicant? Well, I have a question. Have you considered moving the existing structure and using it somewhere else? Having it used by someone somewhere else?
I
It's a
would
scale.
love to consider that. I think that would be a good sign. I haven't really been in the garage. I have been in the apartment.
You want it?
I was gonna say, I'm happy to give you a tour if you know
I
anyone.
want it.
No, I would think that would be great if somebody's like, I'll take it. Yeah, but I know I've got Bogey's number, so,
Yeah, I just took one.
Other questions for the applicant?
Thank you for this
Yeah, no, this is very.
analysis.
helpful.
This is great.
it's, I want to hear from you, Kathy. I have been waiting very, very patiently for tonight. Do you have any recollections
Let's
of
take
this?
that
You
under
you did mention
advisement.
you've seen this more than once.
Yeah. We didn't like the building that Ray built that's there.
Yeah.
That just kind of magically happened despite whatever, but you know, this subdivision came out of a family tragedy when
Yep.
Francis Werner was killed.
Yep.
So we were trying to help the family. We'd already decided not so much, we didn't want these square lots, but what the tail lots are things like Rick Silverman's lot on North Willow, where his house is in the back. There's an alley that will never be developed. And he has a strip of land that he owns that goes out,
Access.
that's like a
Yeah.
5-foot or 10-foot wide tail that comes out to the road. That's a tail lot. I don't know why Lance can't remember that, but long before a lot of your examples that you've shown happened in the 80s, not in the 90s, of things getting divided this way. And a lot of the examples you've shown of things being divided this way are in the commercial residential zone. They're not in the same zone district like Town Hall, the Firehouse, Rebecca Hall, and the Miners Union building. So they aren't relevant to the development pattern, in my opinion. And certainly where Elaine's house is and where Sam and Maryland, that had already been divided before I got to town. You're familiar with what you did with your house, Peter, but you know, Francis Frank's lot is kind of like the little red house there, historic house is kind of, you know, like a tail lot thing now. It has the alley. But personally, our goal was to have a very secondary structure on that lot. And by that, I mean like a secondary mass and scale structure. I understand that 880 square feet or whatever the maximum size of a secondary structure is inappropriate, but I'm struggling with any height increase at all, because it should look subordinate. The other thing, if you go back to some of your slides, you know, it's not I mean, in a way, it's great that we're doing these height above sea level things, because then you can't get confused. But the reason that some of the other buildings have these higher heights is because they're on a hill. So their base point to get to their 25 measured foot height is higher up. So that's why. And I think the new structure on lot 6B should look more like a secondary structure and should not be as tall as you're proposing. I feel that very, very strongly. And I don't think the heights of the other buildings are really very relevant because their base measuring point is higher. They are not as disproportionately high as you're showing because their base point measuring is in a different location than the base point for Ray's garage. So.
Is that a question?
No, it's a statement.
Did you want to ask anything?
No.
Okay. Are there any other questions for the applicant? I actually had one question. You said that the owner of lot 6A is fine with this. Do any of the other neighbors have a view?
We have not heard comment from
It's been noticed.
any other neighbors. Ron, I believe that's still, so, yeah. Lance did mention, he said this block seemed to be somewhat litigious back in the day as well, and that might have been part of some of the conversations, but didn't elaborate.
Okay, are there other questions for the applicant? Is there any public comment, Tiffany?
I'm seeing no hands raised online.
Thank you. Let's go to discussion. So this is interesting because it is true that on Columbia, like starting from Pine Street going west, I think almost all the houses face Columbia. Certainly, you know, Sam's house, my house, Peter's house, blah, 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 down the street. They all seem, with maybe one or two exceptions, to face Columbia. And so it's interesting that that this other going the other way might have a different path. But it seems like I'm kind of surprised that it was such a big issue which way the house faced. Because I'm
Yeah.
not used to the pattern that exists now.
Me too. I like that facing.
This is.
Probably not supposed to speak. I should point out, and to your point, East and West Telluride, as it expanded at those times, adopted this orientation because it was far more popular. To your point.
I was gonna say that, aside from what Kathy's recommending in terms of or thinking about the height request, facing the street is a much more neighborly thing to do as you walk along the street. Having doors facing the main street is a much more friendly approach with, you know, deck or a stoop or something. That's a more traditional development pattern, and to have the garage around the corner rather than have a garage scape as so many subdivisions have now. So that aspect of what I'm seeing, not really having any history.
I like that too. I mean, there are a few curb cuts on Columbia and it's much nicer when it's off the alley.
Yeah, that's another aspect of why it's more pedestrian friendly.
Todd, thoughts?
We're looking at modifying something that was done 30 years ago, which was then a modification of something else. So I don't have a problem at all with the garage apartment being redeveloped and being brought forward on the lot.
Would look nicer too.
Yeah.
Displace the ski bumps, so.
I'm not sure about that. either.
Go ahead, Todd, finish your comment.
I am sensitive to Kathy's comment about height. There is about seems to be a 3 foot, if not more, rise from Columbia to the garage as it sits now.
You mean as it goes back?
As it goes back.
There's also this going.
Yeah, it's rising both ways.
But looking, and this is Hart, not P and Z, but putting that in context of what is there now. The additional 4 feet doesn't bother me. If it were 3 feet, I'd be happier, but I can live with 4.
Yeah, I think I share your view, Todd. Okay. Would you like to talk anymore, Kathy?
Yeah. I think HARC and PNC did a lot of good work in the 80s and the 90s. We, you know, things were in a big disarray. We got our first land use code in the mid 80s and stuff. things started to get really organized. And sadly, when all the records were first digitized, the paper records were thrown away. So probably the lot and block file with a lot more details on this project is gone. And those digitized records are no longer available, is my understanding. They got, so whatever they got digitized into got corrupted or can't be read. But I feel that it's really important to maintain the mass and scale that was set then. We did not want to do this. We had learned that we did not want these lots reoriented like this. And so we were doing this partly because of the big tragedy and because, and because we got that height limitation. So I think it's very important. There will still be a much nicer, better looking house at that location, even with a lower height. It might be a little bit smaller, or there'll be less second the secondary space, second floor space will be less usable, but it will still work. And I think it's really important. I don't think we should start saying, oh, it's 30 years old, let's just throw it away. We're going to throw away a lot of the historic context in our town. And, we learned the hard way not to make lots like this. We were trying to stop it when we created this lot, and it should have its original conditions on it forever.
Well,
Because you're setting a precedent that everything that was done in the 80s and 90s to maintain this mass and scale of the town and keep the historic designation doesn't matter.
So,
do the applicants want to comment?
yeah, I mean, so if you're looking at just what happened on the site, you need to also look at what happened on the big lot, on lot 6A.
We knew it was going to get a lot bigger. We didn't know this plan, but there was a different plan about it getting a lot bigger.
So you're saying the proportionality. So the house that was on lot 6A at the time that you were looking at creating 6A and 6B were in scale. The house that was on 6A got considerably bigger since that point in time. This house is getting a little bit bigger, but it's still, you look at the proportionality of what it would be now compared to the bigger house on lot 6A plus the accessory unit that got built on 6A too. It's still meeting those goals and objectives that you were describing were occurring at that point in time. This small little house got dwarfed by what happened on lot 6A. So, I mean, if that's what was happening at the time, okay, but this thing is getting dwarfed. Plus it's in a floodplain. You can't go down.
I know, I realize all of that. I've built a lot of these things.
Okay.
I feel like
Did you?
if we increase the height, we're not stepping down to the alley all over town. We want everybody to step down to the alley. We're stepping down 4 feet from the very highest point of the very newest part of the 6A building, which has got a higher up on the ground starting point. I mean, we might as well just shred the HARC guidelines tonight.
Well, but that's a HARC issue, to be fair. Whether the house
But we
steps down
didn't want
to
to do
design,
this
the house
unless we
can
could
go behind steps.
guarantee it was a secondary unit mass.
Go
and
back to
scale.
the prior slide. The, as is today,
Sorry,
That one.
that one, yeah.
while you guys are looking at that, I will mention, Tom, you mentioned the floodplain. We have to be 3 feet above highest adjacent grade. Not easy on a site with 10 feet of slope. And with that 3 feet of above adjacent grade, our low grade is our high grade. We are constrained 1.5 feet based on floodplain stuff at the bottom. I know from HARC last night and sort of intuiting what that sort of challenge is going to be. Steep roofs at HARC are like kind of their high goal. And they're already asking like, well, it'd be a nicer little, like, we've got a covenant signed off, like this is a ridge height. If it steepens, we're not going to get a 2-story structure here with the floodplain and with slopes. And again, this is a 2-story apartment and it works because it doesn't cloud the floodplain and it's kind of a 512. And a one-story structure is what would result from complying with the floodplain and living with that ridge height.
Was it, it's not clear from the history, so somebody who, maybe Kathy or Ron or even the applicant, was it Hark or P and Z that had these concerns back in the past?
I think it was both groups. Because we seen some giant buildings getting wedged into the lots, that the newly created lots on the alley. And we were trying to avoid that in the future.
When you say we in that context, you mean?
We were
This page
planning
has-
and zoning and heart. I used to have a lot more joint meetings. We had this big blow up in the early eighties. And then we had a lot of joint meetings. Now we're no longer allowed to have joint meetings, or not to, I should say, we're probably allowed to, but
Sometimes we did.
yeah. But we did a lot of joint meetings back then in order to not step on each other's toes.
I have a question for Kathy.
Yeah.
So reading some of the history, on lot 6A, they had the same restriction as lot 6B on limiting the number of or dwellings to one.
Yeah.
And they took that out of lot 6A. Do you remember why they made them
Well,
different?
We were already concerned about employee housing. We'd done our secondary employee housing unit thing, legislation in the mid-80s. So we were hoping maybe 6A would end up with a EDU or just a secondary unit that could be rented. So we didn't, it's a bigger lot. But we thought on this small lot, in order to keep the structure tiny, we wanted to limit it to one dwelling unit. And there's, it's really hard in the floodplain if you're not in a historic house to work with the floodplain. But you could do a carport on the back and put the house further forward, which means, the floodplain would be not as high as if you have a built-in garage on the very back side,
So I have a question, because it seems to me that some of this discussion is veering into territory which is more Hark, at least today is more Hark, like how it steps down to the alley and stuff like that. What did Hark have to say about this plan when you presented it to them?
As Ron, or it might have been you, Tom, described it, they didn't have issue with the roof or the height of this structure. It's again, these are not Hark members who were there 30 years ago. They were looking at this with fresher eyes, to be fair, but they did not have concern with that. They raised question. I think Elitza, the new Hark member, she said, if it was steeper, if the roof was a little steeper, that would be great. And it was reference to the front module, the one story. We go down one more. Two
She
more.
wanted the front to be steeper?
Well, the ridge that we have like an absolute height signed off on. She was like, she would like to be a slightly steeper roof. She voiced that as a not uncommon Hark thing.
And the front element too, there was a question about if you can.
It projects out and it's flat roof.
Yeah,
This portion, the
Yeah.
little one-story
it
piece
stuck out.
front.
There was a question, can you play around with some of the materials to soften it or present it a little bit differently? It was those kinds of issues, not really the mass and scale.
So they did not, that was my question. So they basically were okay with the height
Yeah.
specifically?
Specifically asked that question, and they all said, if we're asking height, what do we think? And they all said height, and they went across the board, all were perfectly fine with the height.
I'm wondering about ceiling height, interior ceiling height,
Good question. 8 feet for the first floor.
8.
Yep. And you have 7-foot plate heights, which are at the roof where the wall turns into the slope roof. 7 feet high.
Because that's not very tall.
We in the process, we submitted to Jana about a year ago. And we found out with town's help, there were plat restrictions, there were notes on a plat, which didn't get caught in the title work. We
Right.
redesigned the house, dropped, cut inches out and feet
Yeah.
out. Working with the neighbor and internally to get to where we are, with a 2-story house. This is a fine line of at some point, roofs are too flat. They don't feel like they're correct and Telluride. And that's one reaction we had to the 76 apartment is that, it's kind of cute and funky, but it's not a Telluride. It's not a Telluride. It's not a sort of
Yeah.
compatible structure.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That's true.
So,
Is there further questions or discussion? Discussion. Any more? All right, I am gonna make a motion. And we'll vote, and then we might have more discussion. All right, I move to approve a minor scale subdivision of lot 6B, block 19, per land use code section 6-403B. To revise a plot note to reflect the note referenced in the staff memo dated November 8th, 2023, and based on the findings set forth in the staff memo dated November 8th, 2023. With the following condition, lot 6B shall be renumbered to lot 6BR, block 19, town of Telluride. This motion is based on evidence and testimony provided at a public hearing held on November 16th, 2023, with notice of such hearing provided as required by the Telluride Land Use Code. Do we have a second?
Todd seconds.
Okay, is there further discussion? Let's vote. All in favor? It's 3-1, the motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve.
Please stick around for board and staff discussion. Peter, don't go away. So, Ron, I have 2 items for board and staff discussion, and you might have some too, so do I go first? or shall I?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so my first item is, I noticed in the Daily Planet, they were advertising for a new regular member of P and Z. We should not be doing that. Please change that advertisement.
Well,
Nobody,
maybe somebody's term is up and they have to reapply.
nope, none of the regular members, not yet.
Lee Shea did not get,
Lee
Not
Shea is
making
not going to
council.
town council. And so we are complete board, that advertisement should be changed.
And
That was
actually,
probably an error,
Yes,
so I'll follow up on that.
Tiffany is in charge of that.
because even if,
for
well, anyway, even if, Lee Shea had been appointed, she is an alternate. So the applicant, so
does
the
that mean I
ad
get
is
to be
wrong.
first alternate? Do I move up automatic?
You're not going anywhere near this, Lee Shea, I hope.
Hope not.
So that's thing 1. All right, thing 2, this is a little more serious. I really want to get back to our long-term planning, and I want it to be on the agenda for the next couple meetings, at least until we have some movement forward on the master plan and other long-term planning issues that have been pushed aside in this period of staff shortage by projects that want our attention, and I understand that, but I am requesting you, Ron, to please put the master plan back on the agenda every time until we get it done. And then we will just take as many projects as we can fit after that. And as you can write memos for having done that work. Kathy?
do you want it to be the first thing on the agenda?
Yes, I
We've
do.
always been doing the long.
Yes, I
range
do.
planning
Thank you for
first.
reminding.
Okay, not always, but for quite a while.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
So does anybody else have any comments about any of that?
I'm supportive.
Okay,
I would like to ask, how is it coming with replacing Phil?
It's challenging.
Mhm.
We've made 2 offers and they didn't follow through.
you mean they didn't,
Housing situations, other offers that look better for them. And so we're in the process of reviewing another candidate. It looks good, but it's always challenging.
I got to meet the new Rich Tombolato, Sam's
Yeah.
sidekick today.
We did hire a new
Tommy.
building inspector. Uh-huh.
awesome.
We also lost Erica.
Yes.
Yes, we lost
Yes.
her.
We have a serious staff shortage right now and we
Yeah.
just have to live with that and people just have to be patient.
Maybe you should go on strike like Starbucks did.
Yes.
Because you've got short
I'm
staff.
changing that. I think Charles's seat is running out right now and that's what's going on. It says November 2023, November 30th, 2023. So
Check.
Is that right,
So-
Tiffany? He's.
Let me check,
He's an alternate also.
No,
he's-
Charles is a
he's-
regular.
No.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
Peter
That's
are
right.
the alternates. You moved up to the.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
I
you could
just,
be right.
I just checked it. I mean, unless this is wrong, but
You could be right. Doesn't seem like he's been on the board that long to me, but you know, time flies when you're fun.
Yeah, especially when we don't see one in 2 years or so. In person.
Yeah, COVID was really like Where did that time go?
So no, I think it'll be great to get a new senior planner and it'll be great for Jonna to get a new, whatever that
Erica
title
is.
is.
Historic
Yeah.
preservation
Yeah, and
plan.
it's good that there's a new building inspector instead of only a building official.
Yeah,
Right.
no, that's great.
We also have a,
Update for us?
Yeah, that is correct. Charles's term is up
okay.
November 29th, so that's why it was advertised.
Okay, great. Didn't know that. Thank you for clarifying.
we've also hired a part-time building inspector for the purpose of inspecting for electrical and plumbing. In the past, we've relied on Mountain Village for that, so the current building official for Mountain Village will be working for the town of Telluride part-time basis to cover those inspections, which requires a journeyman to actually do that.
Right.
So,
Great. So how about code enforcement? Are we hiring? for code
we have a new position and I'm not sure what the status is on that one, but
Nobody's
But
applying.
is the position for like building code and zoning code enforcement?
not
Or
specifically.
Just overall code enforcement?
Uh,
I mean, is it in the planning
No,
department?
it's not.
No, it's in the
No.
marshals.
well, I'm not sure
Still,
whether they're
that'll
gonna
still be an improvement.
put that.
But we lost another code enforcement person, I believe, in the last few
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah.
Tiffany and, yeah, so how many code enforcement people are we short?
Oh, well, two maybe, but I believe we just have one.
We have one now.
One.
And
Put your
maybe,
knife
and in terms of long range planning, maybe we can get an update from Dan. Are we going to hold back? Like when Voodoo Lounge comes online and I don't know what, if anything else will come online sooner than that, hold back enough units for town employees that we can recruit and keep
Oh, yeah. What's the
employees?
status of that?
So
decision?
it was included in our goals and objectives for this year for the town to house up to 30% of our employees. We're currently housing about 15%, so that is an increase. I know Scott has a short list of key positions that he's looking to utilize existing and new housing stock for that purpose. So for that specific position, I don't have an answer, but in general, yes.
Yeah.
That is,
Have
mean,
to rehouse some of Shandoka.
Yeah.
But I mean, we just have so many vacancies and it all, whether it's in public works or whether it's in the planning and park departments, or whether it's in law enforcement or marshals, we can't get enforcement done. You know, there's nobody to do enforcement, or there's nobody to go review anything, you know, in the field. And so I think it's absolutely essential that we house at least 30% of the town employees so we can recruit and keep them.
Recruit from teachers' spouses when they get housed. That would be smart.
Okay. well,
Yeah.
that's a good idea.
2 for 1.
Yeah.
They're like, well, yeah,
Yeah.
Preference for
we'll
you.
train you.
We already have this effective preference for anybody who has housing.
Okay.
Dan, do you have
Tough
any other thoughts?
Nope, no.
All right. Does anybody have anything else that we want to talk about? No? All right. It is 8:17 and I declare this meeting closed by unanimous consent.